Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Sharielle if you're new, and if you're returning, thank you for coming back. Today is all about consumerism. Our culture is obsessed with buying, and we almost can't help ourselves because we're being encouraged through different social media apps. Every time we click on our phone, we're being sold something. Every time we're on our laptop, on our TV, on a streaming platform, enjoying our favorite show. Or if we're driving on the highway, we see billboards. There's advertisements on trains. Everywhere we go, we're being sold something. And we're actually giving in, I feel, more than ever. And not only are we giving in more than ever, we're competing with each other secretly to show who has more and who has a so-called better life. And as someone who's frugal, which means I don't spend unnecessarily, and I'm also somebody that doesn't feel the need to keep up with people, I will honestly tell you this: don't go broke trying to impress people. And I'll get further into this after my intro. Don't get me wrong, I like nice things. Just because I don't spend my money recklessly doesn't mean I don't get expensive things. Really, on my day-to-day, whether it's my facial moisturizer, my sunscreen, the food I eat, the type of bottled water that I drink, I'm an expensive girl, I'll admit that. But at the same time, it's not because I'm being brainwashed to buy things. It's who I am, it's things I truly enjoy, and I'm not trying to impress people or post it to make people jealous of me. And we all remember the saying our parents used to say, right? Money doesn't grow on trees. But when it comes to millennials and Gen Z, it looks like it grows on trees for us, the way we spend our money. It's almost scary how we just don't think about long-term consequences and bills in general. And I'm not a pocket watcher, but there's quite a few people that I see on my social media that go on vacation every other month, or they're spending money on expensive food, expensive dining experiences, or they're upgrading the car, they're doing this and that. And I'm like, no offense, because I know my area very well, the state I live in, everybody's really not making that much money. And even if you do some research on Google of the median amount that Americans make, you would think people have six-figure jobs, and I'm talking about high-earning six-figure jobs the way the money's getting spent. And also because we're seeing people's milestones in real time, which didn't used to happen pre the internet, like pre-social media, it puts pressure on us because we're seeing 21-year-olds start their first business and making six figures, or they're getting their dream car, or 24-year-olds buying their mother a house. And we're like, what am I really doing? Should I be pushing myself to get something that I can't afford yet, but other people are doing it, so I think I should do it too? And the answer is no. Everybody honestly achieves things at different times, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if you do something 10 years later after somebody else, do it when you can afford it and do it when it makes sense. There is no need to have a designer bag that you can't afford, or Balenciaga shoes, or whatever brand, or a Chanel purse that you can't really afford. You're struggling to pay your rent and you're buying a Chanel bag. It makes no sense. And once again, I'll touch on the income of most Americans. It's pretty much below $60,000 per year. And people are spending money like they make $250K. And this is where you have to kind of do your research and don't feel bad about yourself, especially if you're watching people that live in big cities like LA, Chicago, New York, Houston, Miami. These different cities that you're watching people achieve these things in, there's different opportunity out there. Like the money is in certain places. I think the stat is 1 in 26 people in New York are millionaires, something like that. So for number one, when you're comparing yourself to people, remember where they live. because they may live in an area that's more lucrative, or they move to a place where the industry is booming that they got their degree in or their expertise in. So of course they're going to thrive. But if you're in some small town and there's certain industries that are there and there's nothing else, don't feel bad about yourself, because it's sometimes geographically where you are is how much you make. And another point to where people live, some people live in places where it's normal to have a Louis Vuitton. It's normal to have a Chanel bag. It's normal to have certain expensive items. So to you, it's like, whoa, but to them, it's not a big deal, and it's what everybody has because they can afford it. So don't go buying those things if that's not even the culture where you live, and it's not something you should get if you don't need to get it. Another point I want to touch on is how people make their money. You truly don't know how people make money. Some women do something strange for a piece of change, if you know what I mean. Nobody really talks about their sugar daddies. Nobody really talks about things they sell for money. Nobody really talks about how they're getting flown out to do certain things. Nobody talks about if they're scamming. Nobody talks about if they have a gambling issue and that's how they come up on money and then they lose it. And nobody talks about how they may be selling illegal things. So this is why you also can't put pressure on yourself, because you don't know what people are really doing for money in addition to their day job, or just in general if they don't have a job. Or even if they have a business, their business might not really be making that much money. It's what they're doing on the side. So don't feel pressure to buy what other people are doing, because you don't know where their source of income truly is coming from. A lot of people do things on the low. And just for a reference, I'm going to show you guys this video of this lady who filed for bankruptcy. She lives in Atlanta, and here she talks about how people get their money around there.
So after being an entrepreneur here in Atlanta for a while, I'm going to tell you how a lot of the successful people made their money. And this is no shade, and this is not to everyone, but these were the most popular things that I've heard people make money from. So number one is lawsuits. They either sued their last employer or they sued someone in a car accident, but they made their first 6 figures by a lawsuit. Now, did they start businesses after they got that money? Yes. But when they talk about it in their course, they're not going to mention it. Speaking of courses, course scamming. They're telling you this is how I make 6 figures a month. And they're really making it by telling you that they make 6 figures a month, and then you're buying their course. A lot of them are not even in the field that they're talking about anymore. They did it for a second and they quit, but they knew that they could make money because they're showing you their lifestyle, and you're like, I'm gonna do it too. And lastly is fraud. It used to be PPP, but now they just do regular old school bank fraud. If that didn't teach me anything, it taught me why you should never compare yourself to people, because you just never know.
So one of the biggest things she talked about is lawsuits. You're legally not even supposed to talk about your settlements. So you may be envying or trying to compete with somebody who won a hit and run case, and now they have a big settlement, and that's why they're living on a different level, lifestyle wise, or they sued a former employer and that's why they're living at a certain level now. So like I said, you don't know where the income's really coming from, so don't feel like you have to compete. My third point is nobody talks about their debts. The average American is in a lot of debt. Nobody talks about what they owe for Afterpay or Klarna, how many credit cards they have, how many credit card bills they have, because they're racking up and buying things they can't afford. Like I said before, I'm not a pocket watcher, but it's just not adding up how people are going on vacation so much all of a sudden. Back in the day, people went on family vacation once a year, and it was in the summer when the kids weren't in school, maybe twice for the middle class. But now middle class people are going on vacation like they're wealthy. And traveling is expensive. It doesn't matter if you get a deal or not. You're gonna dish out at least $1,000 or $2,000, honestly, for the plane ticket, the hotel, and food alone. And this is what I'm talking about. Nobody talks about, oh, I had to take out a personal loan to go to Europe, or I had to do this or that. And I know people like to encourage people, you only live once, you should travel, it doesn't cost that much. They say like experiences are priceless, but at the same time, who wants to go overseas, have an amazing 4 to 5 days, maybe a week, and then come home and you're drowning in debt, and then you can't afford to pay your bills on time, and you might get evicted just because you wanted to go to Italy. That's not wise. And this is what I'm telling you guys, don't be impressed when people are always traveling. You don't know how they're traveling. You don't know what type of debt they're in. It's real out here, and people are faking the funk for Instagram and TikTok, but they're not influencers and they're not making influencers money. So do not be fooled. Don't travel if you can't afford it. Don't get into debt for things that you don't really need, honestly. And personally, I just got my passport because the past few years I've been grinding, working on my business and putting out YouTube videos, and I didn't feel the need to travel. I was like, I really can't afford it. And now I'm in a place where it makes sense for me to get my passport because I will be traveling soon. But prior to that, I've watched many of my peers, many of people I went to high school with travel all over, and it never made me want to get a plane ticket because I knew what it would cost me in the end. I don't want to be in debt. I don't want to have to pay interest and high APR rates because I wanted to impulsively go somewhere because everybody else is. I don't care about that. And another thing I see people get tricked into is buying a vehicle that you cannot afford. If it's German engineered, do not get it if you can't afford it. The parts, the maintenance, the oil changes, it's going to be expensive. I know certain people that their car note and their insurance altogether is like $1,100, and that's because they wanted a Mercedes-Benz. Get a Honda, get a Toyota. Why would you get a Mercedes and you're paying $1,000 for it per month? That is insane. Don't do stuff when you can't afford it trying to impress people, because they're not going to help you pay that car insurance. All of this stuff I'm talking about, whether it's clothing hauls, going to Sephora, getting acai bowls, whatever it is, going to Starbucks. If you have these type of habits, keeping up with people, these people will not help you get out of a rut. They will not help you pay your debts off. They will not save you from getting evicted because you spent too much. And also, if you're a parent, it's just bad habits to show your children. Yeah, just buy endlessly. Everything's going to be okay. It's not. If you cannot afford it, try to avoid it. I really feel that way. And I do believe in having a great quality of life, but you can wait for certain things. You don't need to do it now just because you're seeing other people do it now. So please save yourself the headache, the crying, nights having to beg somebody or ask somebody else for money to cover your butt because you wanted to get a pair of sneakers you couldn't afford. Do the smart thing in the meantime until you can get what you'd really like. For me personally, I thrift, I get things on clearance, I make my own clothes. A lot of the time I make my own food. Like if I get something fancy at a restaurant, I learn how to make it at home, and just really improvise, be smart about it, and don't feel the pressure. You're not a loser, you're not a bum, you're none of those things just because you don't do it at the same time as everybody else. You're being wise, you're thinking about your future, and also think about saving money for retirement. Do not bet on your pension or whatever. You still need to have money saved up. So all these people spending all their money up in their youth when they're strong and actually can make money, when they get older and they get weak, they may be broke and old. And that's the worst time to be broke, is when you're old, because you don't even have that energy to try to fight poverty because you're old now. And it's just a scary reality. So really be wise with your money. Don't try to impress people. They really don't care about you in the first place. All the people you're trying to impress. Care about yourself. You're worthy. You are not a loser. Wait until you can afford it, and your life will be much better in the long run. So thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more from me, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell notification to see right when I post, and thank you for watching. You are appreciated.